Okay, here we go. Batwoman. People have been asking me to talk about this for quite a while. I haven't weighed in on Batwoman yet. I decided to pick my moment. Well, the moment has come. The first episode premiered last night as I'm recording this, and having seen it, I can sum up my reaction in 2 words. That's it? That's what all the hype was about? I gotta say, I'm really disappointed. I was excited to watch this thing because I thought we were in for a woke SJW garbage fire the likes of which we've never even seen before. Something I could make jokes about for days and days on end. But that's not what happened. I would think that after months of subjecting the audience to some of the most cringy AF promos I've ever seen for a TV show, the least they could do is lean into that and deliver something I could really sink my teeth into and tear to shreds. Instead, what we got was... it was definitely bad, but it wasn't so bad it's funny like Supergirl, or so agonizing it's a crime against television like The Flash. This was just boring and lame. This entire show across the board is completely half-assed. The one saving grace is that it looks nice. It looks like the network spent a decent amount of money on it, at least in certain scenes. Not all of them, as we'll soon see. They probably spent most of the budget on the Batcave set. But if they're looking for praise, that's the best I've got. There's nothing original about this. You've got all the same cookie-cutter roles you see in practically every other Arrowverse show. There's the nerdy, awkward tech support character, Luke Fox, so he's the Felicity, Cisco, Caitlin Wynn of Batwoman. There's Kate Kane's father figure that she has a difficult relationship with, whose name I can't remember, so he's the Quentin Lance Joe West of Batwoman. It's the same basic characters copied and pasted on every show. It's also very formulaic in how it's put together, and by that I mean, it's the Arrow formula. They couldn't even come up with something new as a framing device, so they just copied what Arrow did, all the way down to the excessive use of flashbacks. Except the flashbacks in Arrow when that show was starting out were a lot more interesting. I'm gonna go through this whole episode, by the way, so if you care about spoilers, there's your warning. When the show starts, Kate Kane has been away from Gotham for years, training to join the big leagues, whatever the hell that means. So she's living in Greenland or the Arctic or something. Absolutely embarrassing green screen in this scene here. And she's practicing how to get out of handcuffs while submerged in freezing water. The guy training her covers up the hole in the ice, she almost drowns, has to punch her way through the ice, and when she gets out, she's not hypothermic or frozen half to death or anything. Not even shivering, she's totally fine. Okay, so why are you in fucking Greenland then? Is it just to evoke the Batman Begins imagery when Bruce was training there with Ra's al Ghul? Doesn't really matter, since that only lasts for like 3 minutes before she gets a call that her ex-girlfriend has been kidnapped by some gang with an Alice in Wonderland theme, so she heads back to Gotham, which has been crime-ridden since Batman disappeared a while back. Huh. A hero is away from their city for years, training to be an awesome fighting machine while the city goes to hell. Then they return to save the city as a costume vigilante. Man, this sounds strangely familiar. I just can't figure out why. We see some flashbacks of Kate's relationship with this girl. They show the same one multiple times, actually, of them being a couple in military school and getting discovered and Kate getting kicked out for being gay while the girlfriend denied everything, so she stayed in and they break up over this. But Don't Ask, Don't Tell got repealed like 10 years ago. And they both look exactly the same age they are in the present. So I don't know when the hell in the timeline this is supposed to take place, but if they're suggesting it was 10 plus years ago, that's stretching it quite a lot. So as soon as we get to Gotham, we are just bombarded with anti-Batman sentiment at every turn. Batman abandoned my family. Batman didn't care. Batman gave up on us. You have a shot at making something of your life, unlike Bruce Wayne. Oh, his suit'll be perfect when it fits a woman. It's the same tired old, we've got to tear the male character down in order to build the female character up nonsense. Newsflash, writers, if you have to do all that just to make your female character look good, maybe she's just not a good character. They're taking every opportunity they can get to put Batman down and dismiss what he meant to everyone, and they do kind of walk back on it later, but holy shit, this was excessive even for an SJW-driven show. So Kate visits her dad, who runs this private security firm that her ex works for, but he's really no help at all, so she goes to Wayne Enterprises, scales the building like a fucking spider monkey, breaks into Bruce's old office, makes the head of security look like a complete jackass, breaks into secured files because she just happens to know the password, downloads a whole bunch of stuff, and instantly figures out where the bad guys are hiding. And this was all so easy for her, it was downright silly. I mean, sure, Oliver Queen came back from Lian Yu super capable and good at lots of stuff in the Arrow pilot, but that was rounded out with a kill first, ask questions later mentality and a lot of PTSD. Here, it's like they just wanted Kate to look as awesome as possible, but forgot to add all the character flaws to make her three-dimensional. So she shares the info she found with her dad and his team, but then she goes to fight the bad guys herself, and somehow she gets there like half an hour before they do. Then she fights a bunch of these guys in one of only 2 action scenes in this episode, and it's just not very good. Ruby Rose seems like she's trying to sell it at least, and apparently she had to get surgery because she was almost paralyzed while performing a stunt on the show, so I don't want to come down too hard on this, but it's rough going in this scene. I don't think she has the physical equipment for this type of stuff. She's trying to be like Stephen Amell here, but she's just not. Amell is 6'1", built like a brick shithouse, athletic as hell. He can perform action scenes and make them look damn good. And here's Ruby Rose, 5'7", weighs 90 pounds, clearly not the athlete that Amell is, doing a fight scene where she has to beat up several men at once, and I'm just not buying it. The choreography is lazy, and the fight itself is just not convincing in the least. So the men eventually take her down, by sneak attacking her from behind of course, because none of them are a match for her face to face, and then they take her to their leader Alice, who kidnapped Sophie, the ex-girlfriend, because that would get Kate's dad's attention. They didn't kidnap Kate because her dad doesn't care about her. He resents her for surviving a car crash that killed her mother and sister when she was a kid. She only survived because Batman saved her, which we see in another flashback, but this flashback is shot very poorly, so much that it's almost hard to tell what's going on, and it's staged to look like Kate climbs out of the car herself, and then Batman just immediately vanishes from the scene, leaving the car to fall off a bridge. She finds out later that supposedly Batman tried to stop it, but that's not what it looks like at all. And Kate has hated Batman for this ever since because her mom and her sister died and they never even found their bodies. But the whole thing is stupid because Batman had that grappling hook gun, so we're supposed to believe that he couldn't just swing down and pull the bodies out of the river? It would have been easy for him. It's just dumb. So anyway, the villains drop Kate off at a doctor's office where the stepsister works, which was actually very nice of them. Kate talks to her dad and they have what's supposed to be a heartbreaking emotional argument, but Ruby Rose doesn't seem to do emotion very well. She gets a little watery-eyed, but she's just very stone-faced and mannequin-like the whole time and not expressive at all. It just doesn't work. Then Kate goes back to Wayne Enterprises and she finds the entrance to the Batcave, which is not under Wayne Manor anymore for some reason, and she finds all of Bruce's stuff. And this should be the big scene. This should have been a really powerful sequence where she finally learns the truth about things that have been haunting her whole life, learning that her cousin was Batman. This should be a huge, emotional, awe-inspiring moment. But instead, her reaction is like, hey look, a Batman costume. Da, 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 da. Then she tells Luke Fox to alter the batsuit to fit her, because of course it's not perfect because it doesn't fit a woman yet. And he just goes along with this because fuck it, why not? He's not allowed to have thoughts of his own apparently. Meanwhile, Kate's dad has this second-in-command guy who works for him. He's always hanging around in scenes, not doing that much but trying to look useful, and he's a white guy by the way. So the second I saw him, I thought, now, he's gonna be evil, isn't he? And yeah, sure enough. Fast forward to the climax, and he's working with Alice and her gang, and has somehow loaded a bomb the size of like 4 beer kegs into one of the security company's vans without anyone noticing. And they're providing security for some public event, so a whole lot of people are about to die. But it turns out that in the span of like half an hour, not only has Luke Fox completely altered the Batsuit to fit Kate perfectly, but she has already mastered Batman's equipment, using the grappling hook gun perfectly. She uses the hang glider cape without getting herself killed. Now how in the hell did she get the hang of that thing so fast? That's not something easy you can master over your fucking lunch break, but she flies with it like it's the easiest thing in the world, like she's been doing it for years. Yes, Queen Slay, am I right? And here's where we get our second action scene of the episode, and it's really short and not good at all. They didn't even try with this one. Kate takes out Alice's team with the grapple gun effortlessly, and then her and Alice have a really bad fight that honestly looks like two untrained actors just flopping around hitting each other with stuff. Though, not shockingly, Alice still gives Kate all she can handle and puts up way more of a fight than any of the men did. So then Sophie falls off the building and Kate tries to save her, grabs her in midair, but they land on a mattress or something that breaks their fall. So even if Kate hadn't tried to save her, she still would have been fine. So she was worried over nothing. So Alice fucks off while that's happening, Kate rescues Sophie, and the day is saved. So then it turns out that while Kate was away from Gotham, Sophie got married to a guy. And it's a white guy, by the way, so 10 to 1 odds say he'll turn out to be evil. Kate and her dad make up, and he admits that he always treated her weird because he wanted to protect her because she's all he has left. So yeah, f*** his stepdaughter and his new wife of 10 years, I guess. Kate decides to take over the Batcave and continue fighting crime as Batwoman, and apparently Luke Fox is just totally cool with this because you go, girl, we don't need any more reason than that. And Kate does at least have the sense to acknowledge that she's using Bruce's stuff to do all this, but that's about as self-aware as the show gets. Then it turns out that Alice is actually Kate's long-lost, thought-to-be-dead sister, and that's where the episode ends. So that was Batwoman, and yeah, it's a bad show, no surprise there, but not in the way you were probably thinking. The trailers and promos really did this series no favors. Turns out they were leaning into the virtue-signaling woke SJW stuff a bit harder than the show does. A bit harder. It's still very much a problem, but in an era where that crap is becoming more and more commonplace, this didn't feel so extreme that it seemed out of the ordinary. It just felt like more of the same stuff you'd see in other CW shows, or Star Trek Discovery, or garbage movies like Ghostbusters 2016, or in half the comics on the stands right now. The tropes are still annoying, don't get me wrong, but I don't feel like Batwoman is pushing them that much harder than I've seen in other stuff. Sure, every male character is either an asshole, a straight-up villain, completely useless, or a total pushover, but Kate does seem to get over her resentment of Batman by the end at least, and realizes that maybe she had him wrong all these years. Kate does have a ton of Mary Sue qualities where she's awesome at everything and masters the Batgear instantly without even trying, but the bad guys do at least get the advantage on her in one scene. And there's a moment at the end where she's distracted by Sophie's hotness and then tries to open a door that's a pull instead of a push, so she looks like a dork instead of being super cool. So yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's not quite a Captain Marvel situation where she's never not in complete control and never looks vulnerable for any reason. And yes, the main character is a gay woman, but I didn't get the sense that they were trying to punch the audience in the face with that. I just thought the flashbacks were awkward because Don't Ask, Don't Tell hasn't been a thing for a long time. That's something that should have been updated for current year, and I don't know why it wasn't. So the woke tropes are definitely all on display here, but they're not quite as extreme as the promos made it look. Maybe I've just been desensitized by all the radical leftist propaganda infesting pop culture right now, but I didn't feel like Batwoman was taking it to any kind of new crazy level. It just felt like run-of-the-mill SJW nonsense. It's enough to make you roll your eyes and dismiss the show as crap, but not so much that it stands out in a crowd of all the other projects riddled with identity politics these days. More bothersome to me is that the show is just utterly half-assed and uninspired. The action scenes are completely phoned in. Alice and the stepsister are the only members of the cast who seem to be having fun with what they're doing. Dougray Scott looks bored as hell. Ruby Rose is a block of wood at the best of times, and I didn't see much genuine chemistry between any of these people. The entire structure of the episode was lifted directly from the Arrow pilot. Character archetypes are just copy and pasted from ones we've seen in every other Arrowverse show. There's nothing really interesting or original about the story. There's shades of Supergirl in there too, with the villain turning out to be a family member and whatnot. The whole series is just a repackaged version of stuff the other Arrowverse shows have done 1,000 times already. And I'm not even a little surprised, because when Greg Berlanti is cranking out these DC superhero shows like an assembly line, naturally they're all gonna start to look the same. So if the show isn't doing anything new or different, or at least cranking the woke meter up so high the needle breaks off so I can have fun roasting the hell out of it, then I don't think there's anything remotely interesting about this series, good or bad. It's not good enough to be enjoyable, it's not bad enough to be funny, it's not memorable one way or the other. Ultimately, Batwoman is the worst thing a TV show can be. Forgettable. So that was my review of the Batwoman premiere. I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I don't think I need to watch any more of this show. At this point, Greg Berlanti is just recycling the same concepts over and over, and this is just the latest example. It might hammer that SJW nail harder than the other Arrowverse shows do, but in current year, when you see this kind of crap in just about everything now, from movies to TV to comics, from Star Wars to Star Trek to Ghostbusters, something like Batwoman really isn't worth raging against. There's nothing here you haven't seen before. These days, it's just more of the same. If you enjoyed this review, please leave a comment down below. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, like and share the video to aid me in my never-ending battle against the YouTube algorithm, smash that bell icon and follow me on Twitter using the link right down there so you'll always be notified about new videos, and I'll be back soon. Over. Out.